All right, guys, we're ready for our Four Seasons sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh no, we'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh no, wait, a family hub.
Yeah!
No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to receive your free, no-obligation brochure from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
More reasons for Four Seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-928-7007. That's 800-928-7007. Call 800-928-7007 today.
Wake up, America. I think I got something to say to you. I say this every week. I love the United States of America, and I want you to love the United States of America too. Office Hours with Dr. A is not a safe space, so enter at your own risk. You will be exposed to the truth, and I will endure the consequences. Again, rest assured, I will not try to put my brain into your head. I will, however, motivate you to think and to use the analytical part of your brain that very few people want to use because it requires actual effort, it requires actual work.
You've reached the office of Dr. Randy Arrington. Please have a seat, and the doctor will be with you in just a moment.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. A. I am Randy Arrington, PhD, political science, and they do call me Dr. A. On the line with me, hopefully, as she always is the producer of the show, my sidekick, and of course you know that I've given her the honorary tactical call sign of Wench because she doesn't take crap from anybody. Of course, that would be Lou Esposito, or Lou, are you there?
I am here, and that includes you.
Well, you know what? Just for the listening audience out there and the people in the romper room, chat room, I got to reiterate something here. This last week, Lou Esposito, the wench, tried to once again control Dr. A or handle Dr. A. And you know, Lou, many women over the years have tried to handle or control Dr. A. None have been successful. So what makes you think, or Miss Stacy think, that you could be successful at controlling Dr. A?
I don't know about Stacy, but not only can I, but I do on a regular basis, pretty much every Sunday.
All right, well, I'll give you that, and we'll let the audience decide that. Hey, you know, the title for the show today is The Chain Link Theory of the American Collapse. And as always, this might take me 2 episodes to get through it. You know, as I don't think the listeners realize this, but next week we're going to be, a whole bunch of us from WNJC and K98 Talk are going to be up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. to be part of the CPAC convention, broadcasting from Radio Row there, and hopefully getting some good information out to the people. And that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you and JD and Miss Stacy and the Air Boss, whoever else shows up, Rick Trader. What do you think about that? Are you excited about this?
I'm very excited about CPAC. I got my press credentials. It's going to be great.
Well, did they give me press credentials, or do I?
You told me you got them.
I limped in as a, something odd.
You'll be a VIP. You'll.
A disgruntled whatever. I'm a disgruntled VA veteran. Hey, you know what, Lou? Before we get into Dr. A's chain link theory of the American collapse, and hopefully I'm going to explain that in a manner that people can understand what's going on. Right now, we are in an awkward moment in the American political arena, Lou. Those who do politics for a living, and some of them are quite brilliant, and some of them are, as I call it, knuckleheads, but both of these people are struggling to comprehend the central dynamic that is undergirding the Republican primary race for the nominee. While, in my opinion, humble opinion that it might be, regular people, if you want to call them that, regular people have already absorbed what has happened and what is happening. Journalists and those politicos have been sharing schemes, conspiracy theories for how it is that Marco Rubio can parlay a victory out of winning nowhere, or how Ted Cruz of Texas can roar back with a vengeance, or how John Kasich must finish second in his home state of Ohio. I saw an article about that the other day. But in my experience, any non-political person on the street, when asked who's going to win, not only knows who's going to win, but gives you this look as if you are testing them or teasing them just by posing the question. Donald Trump is their answer to that question. I'm sorry, Miss Stacy. I had just such a conversation with a student pilot of mine just a few days ago. In the simulator, there was a moment where the simulator was down, and so we had about 15 minutes to sit and wait while the mechanics fixed the problem. But this guy asked me this. He said, Dr. A, what's going to happen in this presidential primary? I responded to him by turning the question around on him, which I often do with students, to make them think, Lou. I said, well, who do you think is going to win? His answer was emphatically Donald Trump. And he gave me his response while he gave me this sort of perplexed look, as if to say, well, aren't you a PhD in political science? Shouldn't you know the answer to this question, sir? Today in America, it's as if only the normal people are capable of and willing to see the obvious, Lou. But actually, that's been true for quite some time inside the political arena. And it's exactly how we've gotten into the position that we're in. What do you think about what I've said so far, Winch?
Well, I think that's the perception people certainly are getting from the media, but, you know, Trump is hovering around 30% in the polls. You know, because you know me, that my mantra is polls are basically paychecks for pollsters, and that's all they're really good for. 30% is not a majority by any stretch of the imagination. That does not constitute a majority. And the other thing that's really interesting, if you want to, you know, take Twitter as a pulse of how people are feeling in the country, the biggest trend this weekend is Never Trump. And it's been trending number one for the last 12 hours. We're pre-recording today. We'll see tomorrow. I'll be in the chat room, and we'll probably talk about it a little more since I brought it up. Hopefully, it will trend for the next 24 hours. But it is a very popular 12 hours over somewhere around 450,000 tweets.
I hate to tell you this, but in Common Core math, 30% is an overwhelming majority.
I don't use Common Core math, and I hate to tell you that.
To laugh at that. That was funny. It was a stab at Common Core.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but yeah, it is Common Core math.
Hey, you know, last October I read this article by Peggy Noonan. I think she writes for the
Love Peggy Noonan. Worked for Ronald Reagan. Speechwriter for Ronald Reagan.
I love her, and so she wrote. I think she was a speechwriter, right? Like you said,
for Reagan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, last October, Peggy Noonan wrote about. She called it the 5 stages of Trump, sort of like the 5 stages of grief in a psychological standpoint. And let's go over those 5 stages of Trump. Stage 1 is denial. Trump is going nowhere. He's a farce. We've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, stage 2 is anger. So stage 1, denial, he's going nowhere. He's a farce. Stage 2 is anger. This vulgar slob of fool has some nerve messing with the American electorate for his own enjoyment. That would be the anger stage. Stage 3 is bargaining. If we make Trump promise to support the party if he doesn't win, and then he refuses, won't that ruin him with the grassroots voters? There's bargaining for you, and this has happened as well. Stage 4 is depression. Trump is a reality TV star. He has the hair of an abnormal person. And this dude is our next president? Looks like I picked the wrong year to give up hallucinogenic drugs. There's depression for you. I've seen that too in several tweets and different people on the news and that sort of stuff. Stage 5 is acceptance. Well, we've had worse candidates. I've been starting to hear that too. There's the 5 stages of grief when it comes to Trump. Most of the so-called, as I call them, the so-called political elites in the GOP, analytically speaking, seem to be stuck between stages 4 and 5, Lou. Where are you, Wench, in the 5 stages of Trump?
I'm not in the 5 stages of Trump. I'm in the exact same place that I've been all along, which is Trump is not a conservative. What's he doing running for the GOP candidate?
Where's Miss Stacy in the 5 stages of Trump?
I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't say. That's not. It's not for me to say.
You don't want to give me any grist for the mill when I see her next week and give her a little hard time.
Yeah,
okay.
well,
she can fight back. You know me, when I get around
you.
you and JD and Stacy, I kind of shut up and be quiet, just kind of listen. I like that. I keep thinking of how Donald Trump has put himself into the position of very likely becoming the GOP nominee for president. Of course, there are many answers and reasons, but my thoughts keep revolving around the idea of protection that Peggy Noonan discusses. For Miss Noonan, it is a theme that has been something of a preoccupation for her for several years now. But likewise seems to be growing, and the term I use is metastasizing like a cancer, as an undergirding political dynamic throughout all the Western nations, this idea of protection. That being the case, let's talk about this analytically. In any society, there are protected people and there are unprotected people. The protected class make public policy. The unprotected class must live within that public policy. Today we are witnessing the unprotected class pushing back powerfully against the protected. The protected, how should I characterize them? The protected are the accomplished, the successful, those who have power or access to power. That being the case, they are protected from much of the roughness, if you want to call it that exists in the world today. But as Ms. Noonan points out, they are protected from the world that they create. Isn't that an interesting analytical concept? They are protected from the very world that they create. Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, Barack and Michelle Obama, Andrea Merkel, Harry Reid, Eric Cantor, John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Nancy Pelosi, Valerie Jarrett. These are just a few of the quintessential examples of this protected class. Does this set of names ring any bells with you, Lou?
Yeah, it rings some pretty ugly bells with me. Bells that I'm not real.
Yeah, well, Michelle Obama. Who's Michelle Obama? She's telling our kids what they can and can't eat at school. Are you kidding me? that just riles me up to no end. She's nobody.
Yeah, and according to the kids I've talked to, she's starving them to death.
Well, now, to reiterate, the protected make public policy, and they have done so for some time. Dr. A always refers to these individuals as the so-called elite. But let's stick with Peggy Noonan's characterization of the protected. They are figures in government, the media, politics in general. They live in very nice neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods like Georgetown, Beverly Hills, South or North Carolina. What's the difference? Or in North Georgia. Their families are functional. You know, I didn't even get a response to you on that last one. I figured I would.
I'll stop responding to the North-South Carolina thing because it's just, you just do it to annoy me. I
do.
Done.
Okay.
I'm done responding to that.
Harry put me up to that, you know?
Yeah.
How about North Georgia? That's funny. Come on.
Well, how about lobbyist land in Potomac, Maryland?
Oh, yeah, exactly. You know what I'm getting at.
Yep.
Again, their families are functional. Their kids attend, how should I put this, good schools. They got some cash. They got some money. And all of these things tend to isolate them, tend to provide them with a buffer. Some of them, like the so-called elites in Washington, D.C., have their own security detail. Because they are protected, they can pretty much do anything. They can pretty much impose any reality. They are insulated from the effects of their own decisions. Probably the best example of a current political policy that is torquing up the unprotected class would be immigration. It is this issue, it is the issue of the moment, if you will, a real concrete one, but likewise, it's a highly symbolic one. It stands for the vast gulf, the distance between government and their citizens. Immigration is the policy issue, the political issue that made Donald Trump what he is inside the contemporary political arena. If you are an unprotected American, one with limited resources and negligible access to power, if you will, you have absorbed some pretty hard lessons over the past 20 years' experience with illegal immigration. As a member of the unprotected class, you know that the Democrats will not protect you and that the Republicans will not help you. Both of our political parties refuse to control our borders. You can't have an open border, Lou, and a welfare state. It doesn't work. Milton Friedman taught us that. It just will not work. Now, the cowardly Republicans are afraid of being called racist and of losing a voting demographic for an entire generation, like 15 or 20 years. The Democrats, on the other hand, they want to keep the issue alive and kicking and use it as a sort of a wedge issue against those Republicans to establish themselves as owners of the Hispanic bloc of voters. Lou, many Americans suffered from the, the nefarious effects of illegal immigration over the past 20 years or so, maybe even longer than that. Its impact on the labor markets, the financial costs that arise from it, increased crime, and the sense that our Constitution and the rule of law are collapsing. They're evaporating. But the protected amongst us did just fine. They got more workers, lower wages for those workers. No effect of illegal immigration is or was likely to hurt them personally. In fact, it's been pretty good for the protected class. But all the while, Lou, the unprotected, they've been watching, they've been seeing what is materializing in our country. They've begun to realize that the protected were not looking out for them. And they inferred by this that they were not looking out for our nation either.
So let me ask you this question.
The micro and the macro effect. Go ahead.
Let me exercise my prerogative.
Well, where does it say you get to ask me questions?
Office hours.
I ask you questions.
No, the office hours. It's about asking you questions. What do you think people are thinking with regards to Trump not being part of the protected class? Because that is not the case, nor has it ever been the case. He's always been part of the protected class.
Well, I think a lot of what's happening right now, especially in the grassroots, is being dictated by extremely volatile emotions, and they're making decisions based on that, and not based on a clear, rational thought process. This also happened during the last two election cycles, as you know, when they elected Barack Hussein Obama, a nobody. A basic nobody from nowhere, has done nothing, has no accomplishment or achievement in his life at all, and yet he played the populist game with this 47% of the people that don't pay taxes that are down there in that part of our nation, and also with the, 8 or 10%, maybe less than that, 7 or 8% of these protecteds that are way up there in society that wanted him to win because they viewed it as a way that they could get even more protected and have even more success at the expense of the rest of us. So a lot of this is emotion. And sometimes emotion can do the wrong thing, Lou. I know this by some of the things that I've seen you say, as well as JD and Miss Stacy and some of the other people, the Air Boss. You know that's affecting their thought process. How do you like that answer?
That we know that their thought process is affected by emotion and not actual intellect or right or truth or fact or any. Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely, we know.
We say this a lot. John, bless his heart, Jonathan Gruber, Dr. Gruber, told the American people that one of the reasons that Obamacare got through is because American people are stupid. Nothing is universal, but there's a whole bunch of people out there that are indeed not very enlightened, if you want to use that term. They're ignorant about certain things, unenlightened, however you want to say that. Stupid. You can't fix stupid, but I think you can fix the unenlightened. I think you can fix ignorance.
Well, and some of them are, we're gonna need to take a break in just a second. But as we go into our break, I think some of them are also extremely self-interested. He says what they want to hear, and all they care about is what they want to hear.
So did Barack. So does Mrs. Clinton.
Exactly.
So does Bill Clinton, and so does the guy from Vermont. What's his name? Bernie Sanders.
Yes, it's extreme self-interest as well, I believe.
That's what cultural Marxists and communists use to their advantage.
Absolutely.
They make people victims. Hitler did that too. They play the victimology game, and they pull you by the nose like a horse with a hitch attached to its nose.
And the parallels
to the direction they want to go. Exactly.
The parallels to Hitler's are really scary. And with that thought, let's go into a break and recover from that thought. And we'll be right back.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberty conservative, where no one is safe and no one is spared.
Not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
round.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
I've seen this happen before. And there's a full moon out tonight. I'm a fool, but you can't fool me twice. I wear my secret deception just like a disguise. When I reveal myself in the light, stick around and you might pay the price. Enough with the questions, it's time that we said our goodbyes.
I knew that this wouldn't be easy.
Try not to tie it down.
Now nothing you say can appease me.
If you wanted to go, then you would have been gone before now. The darkness abounds.
Back to the protected and the unprotected, and what's sort of metastasizing inside the American political arena. Actually, the whole West, Western nations of the world. The unprotected, hit by this continuous onslaught and betrayal, if you will, came to think that they owed the establishment nothing. Establishment is another word to describe these protected people. That they owed the establishment nothing. No allegiance, no particular sense of loyalty. And you know what, Wench? The exact same rebellious dynamic seems to be happening in the European Union as well. The daughters of members of parliament or the daughters of members of the Bundestag in Germany are not the ones getting raped by gangs of Muslim immigrants. This is an ugly realization for us to come to grips with. I know that the protected class does not seem to care all that much about those of us in the unprotected class. Okay, any nation cannot continue with this for a very long period of time. I would say, analytically speaking, that Donald Trump, and this comes from Peggy Noonan as well, Donald Trump arose from this dreadful state of affairs in our politics. In good governments or wise governments, the top echelon is attentive to the realities of the lives of us normal people and careful about how they deal with the anxieties, if you will, of the normal people. This is more or less how America used to be, Lou. There didn't seem to be too great of a gulf, chasm, distance between the top and the bottom layer. Today, the attitude of the so-called elites is, you know what? You guys are on your own. Get with the program and stop complaining, you little racists. I think the protected are living in denial, Lou. They don't realize just how serious this moment in history is, and they certainly don't seem to grasp the undermining role that they are playing in what's occurring right now. What do you think about that?
I can't argue with that. I mean, it's not a good thing, but
well, it's almost as if the political elites are bellowing to us, "How dare you peasants revolt?" You know what? Marie Antoinette bellowed that same sentiment too, and do you remember how that worked out for her?
Yeah, she got her head chopped off.
Yeah. Well, the citizens are daring to revolt, Lou, and the rhinos, if you want to look at it from the GOP perspective, they better get used to it. But Donald Trump will hand the election to Mrs. Clinton. You know what? That's what the Karl Rove type people, the consultants who are getting filthy rich off this whole thing.
Well, I don't know that I don't know that they're wrong.
Say that again?
I don't know that they're wrong. You know, the Huffington Post has a new article out about the title of it is Donald Trump has been self-funding his bigotry parade since at least 1989. I'll
need to read that. Well, I haven't read that. You know what? The leftist media eagerly shoved the Maverick, my naval aviator brother, the Maverick John McCain, down Republican throats as well back in, I think it was 2008, pretty much knowing he would lose to Barack Obama. But even if Trump loses and Mrs. Clinton wins, I don't think she would be dramatically different than a Jeb Bush would have been, or most of his fellow candidates, probably with the exception of Mr. Cruz. Most of them would be nothing more than caretakers, not really working to restore America's greatness, but merely presiding over the collapse of a nation that is already massively in debt. I think we're at the $19 trillion mark now, are we not? A nation, like we said earlier, can perhaps survive open borders. A nation can perhaps survive with a welfare system that is very generous, but no nation can survive both, and there is little evidence that the establishment candidates, those protected class people of our society, they understand this or care. The United States cannot continue forever on the path we're on right now. This trajectory we're on has taken us over a cliff. At some point, our nation will be destroyed by this massive runaway train wreck spending and the debt that it's racking up.
Yep.
Trump speaks like he's a bull wandering through a nice china shop. But the truth is that the borders do, in fact, need to be sealed. I'm not sure Mr. Rubio will do that. I've talked to my contacts that work on the border, and they say that Rubio lied to them big time. He told them one thing. He said, yes, I'm going to. He campaigned on that for his campaign for the Senate in Florida, that he's got to close the borders. We got to close the borders. And when he had a chance to do that, he didn't do that. He lied. He was part of that Gang of Eight bill and got on board with the lefty Democrats to keep the borders open. He lied about that. I'm not going to call him a liar, but he in fact did lie. I mean, everybody lies at some point, but I would be very careful of Marco Rubio. You know what, Lou? We can't afford to feed, house, and clothe 300,000 more Syrian immigrants for decades.
And beyond that, my thing is national security. Beyond that, without borders, there is no sovereignty. Without sovereignty, you have no nation.
That's exactly right. Language, culture, and borders.
Mm-hmm. Language, culture, and borders.
We can't keep bringing these Syrians in, even if we get lucky, and none of them are actually ISIS infiltrators, and none of them are Saeed Farouk San Bernardino terrorist wannabes. The world is at war with radical Islam. The world is at war with radical Islam. I teach that all the time.
Right.
The world's glaciers are not melting. They're getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And Rosie O'Donnell, in my humble opinion, is a disgusting mega-liberal. Mm-hmm. Is Donald Trump the perfect candidate? Of course not. Neither was Ronald Reagan, although I think he was one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. But unless we close our borders and restrict immigration, both forms of immigration, illegal and otherwise, the other issues are irrelevant.
Well, I'm not a Rubio supporter, and I have my questions and my doubts about him too. But I think that his explanation of why he voted for the Gang of Eight bill is acceptable.
Okay, well, let's go here for national security. One terrorist that sneaks in and blows up a bridge or a tunnel could kill thousands of Americans. One jihadist that decides to poison a city's water supply could kill tens of thousands. Mm-hmm. One electromagnetic pulse attack from a single Iranian nuclear device could kill tens of millions. And I know you want to do a show on national security about the EMP possibilities, and I look forward to that whenever you get around to it, but that could kill millions.
Yep.
Faced with the possibilities...
It's a little known threat.
It It is, and most people discount it. You're going to do a great job putting that together and sending me the research you want me to look at, and we're going to do a great job for the people on Thursday night for whom the bell tolls.
Yeah.
But faced with these possibilities, most Americans probably don't care that Donald Trump relied on eminent domain. I know you care about that, but most of them don't care about that. Most of us don't care that he sort of boils the blood of the Muslim Brotherhood when he talks about the Council on American Islamic Relations. And while Attorney General Loretta Lynch's greatest fear seems to be somebody giving a Muslim a dirty look, most Americans are worried more about getting gunned down in a shopping mall by some crazed lunatic Islamist who treats his prayer rug better than his 3 wives and who thinks that there's 72 virgins waiting for him in paradise.
Mm-hmm.
The establishment is frightened to death, Lou, that Trump will win, but not because they believe he will harm the nation. They are afraid he will upset their cushy little taxpayer-subsidized apple carts inside the Beltway.
I don't know why.
Go, all of you out there listening, please go look at that movie with Jimmy Stewart. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You'll see exactly why.
No, I understand why some people may think that because of his rhetoric. But his rhetoric does not match his past actions.
I agree with you. Again, we're playing on emotions.
True.
And that's something that has been, when you're a populist, it gets very, very much as a successful form of campaigning during certain periods during American lifestyle and then around the world. Populism can be very popular. That's why they call it that. And you got to be very careful of it, though. I may do a show on that when we get to what kind of man becomes president coming up in the future. But I think one of the problems they see is that Obama threatens to veto legislation presented to him by the Congress that spends too little. I think that a lot of the legislators worry that Trump will veto legislation that spends too much, and they don't want that. You can be certain that if an establishment candidate wins in November next year, his or her candidate will be filled with the same old, dried out, failed politicians we've seen before. The washed up has-beens of the Clinton and Bush administrations more than likely will be back in charge. And the hacks from Goldman Sachs will continue to call the shots, whether it's Karl Rove type Bush consultant or a John Podesta Clinton type who makes the decisions. It will matter very little in the White House.
And again, I don't know why a congressman would ever think that Donald Trump would veto a spending legislation, because even from his rhetoric, I haven't heard a single government program that he doesn't like.
Well, if I think a lot of people are saying right now, if the establishment wins, America loses. And that might very well be the case. Now, we've got several candidates left. Let me give you Dr. A's honest, humble, and honest analysis of the remaining GOP presidential candidates. You know how I feel about those on the left. They're communists. One admits it, the other one won't. And I still think that Mrs. Clinton will be indicted eventually and go to jail, and they'll end up drafting Vice President Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren be their ticket at their convention. But you know what? Ben Carson is a nice enough man and an extremely talented brain surgeon who has absolutely no chance of winning the Republican presidential nomination. I think what he's hoping for while he's hanging around, he's hoping for an appointment as Attorney General, or probably more likely Secretary of Health and Human Services. Mr. Kasich, Governor John Kasich, I call him the bathroom break candidate because when he's speaking, I head to the bathroom. He has no chance of becoming the GOP presidential nominee. I think he's looking for serious consideration as a vice presidential appointee, or getting picked for that, or DHS secretary, one of those two. Marco Rubio, no offense intended, I'm going to be honest here. Marco Rubio is a slick little punk in a three-piece suit. He betrayed our border police big time. Do not trust him, is Dr. A's warning. I also think he's really looking for a spot on the ticket as vice president. He's not going to win. Even though he's getting shoved down our throat by the establishment. Donald Trump is how should I put this? He's a renegade candidate, again, who scares the entrenched establishment politicians big time because he will close the border, at least that's what he's saying, and expose all of their crony capitalist fraud to the American people, and probably trying to conceal any crony capitalist fraud that he's been involved in.
I don't know where he's going to get people to work in his hotels if he closes the borders.
Are you saying he hires illegals?
I am. I'm saying that he hires people. Yeah, I'm not saying that he hires illegals because I don't know that for sure, but I certainly know that he hires foreigners to work in his hotels over Americans.
Your and Miss Stacy and JD's and Rick Robinson, the Air Boss, blatant aversion to Donald Trump does not torque me up. You have the right to say whatever you want to. That's the vetting process.
Oh, I'm not trying to torque you. I'm speaking the truth, enduring the consequences, just like you told me to.
All right, very good. You learned.
And I know you want to do the chain link theory. We need to take another quick break. Can you?
I'm almost there. Can we keep going?
Yep. You tell me when.
Donald Trump is viewed by the grassroots as somebody who will stand up in the face of extreme adversity and courageously protect them against the continued encroachment and betrayal by the elites, by the establishment, by the protected class. And they think that Donald Trump will prosecute the criminals, the VA liars, the IRS bandits, Mrs. Clinton. He could actually win the nomination, Lou. I honestly believe Ted Cruz is the best man for the job of president, and this is my humble opinion. Cruz is a true conservative. He is a brilliant mind and a tough fighter. He's also a solid Christian man. I don't think he's fooled me. I think this is a true assessment. He will likewise expose and hopefully put an end to the corruption of those Beltway bandits and actually do something to clean it up. He would give the nation that much-needed political enema, that full-body cleanse of the poisonous politicians in D.C. And, we had a Jeb Bush who spent $130 million in his campaign, and he dropped out after his dismal showing there inside that South Carolina primary. And for me, that brought an end to this cycle of the invisible primary. The GOP establishment, Lou, the leadership, the organization, the elected members of Congress, the lobbyists, the major donors, they're no longer in charge of the Republican Party. At least for the time being, the grassroots are calling the shots and are in charge of the Republican Party. The EGOP and all the people that are associated with that moniker have betrayed the people once too often. And I'm ready for a break if you are.
We're going to do the quickest break ever as Station ID. We'll be right back, along with this week's reading from the Book of Beaker.
A reading from the Book of Beaker. First Conservatives, chapters 9, verses 4 through 12. Trump is vacant. Trump is unkind. He knows not envy, but proclaimeth every boast, for his wealth is as vast as the seas. The Trump is rude, and his ego knoweth no bounds. The Trump delights in himself for stupidity's sake, and his followers rejoice in his every statement, for on the short bus do they ride. Irony, it is lost on those who sniff at his most holy of crotches. For positions he changes as quickly as the monkey slingeth poo. The Trump seldom fails, though in so doing he commits bankruptcy and passes on yon burden to the taxpayer. And in this too his followers rejoice. For their intellect is not unlike that of a pot of boiled frogs. But where there are Mexicans, they will cease. For in his greatness a wall shall spring forth from the earth, built and funded by those he casts out from Eden. And in their homeland the unclean shall toil in fine silks, laboring to create a clothing line for his greatness. Amen. This has been a reading from the Book of Beaker.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network.
Office Hours on WNJC. It's brought to you by the Conservative Commando Radio Network.
All right, you can finish up now, Doc.
Okay, we're going to, over a two-part series here on Office Hours with Dr. Ray, we're going to talk about the chain link theory of the American collapse. But to set that up and let you know about this so you can understand it, I'm going to present to you the chain link theory of aviation accident investigation to segue into that analytical construct and use that to analyze the American collapse, which I think is well underway. The chain link theory comes to us again from the field of aviation accident investigation. There's a difference in causation between natural science and complex human relations, Lou. In natural science, A, as one variable, can cause B as one result. As an example, if we take water and we heat it to 212 degrees, it boils every time. A causes B. In complex human relations, however, this never can be the case. There's always many different variables that produce the end result, the end outcome. In aviation, when an accident occurs, a team of aircraft accident investigators is immediately dispatched to the scene of that crash. This team has many objectives for their ensuing aircraft investigation, including determining the most probable cause of that accident, assignment of liability, in other words, who's going to pay, and then my favorite is future prevention, preventing it from occurring again. You know what, Lou? Aircraft accidents are typically very big news. They have profound effects on a variety of people. The manufacturers of airplanes, the engineers, the pilots, the firefighters, the emergency workers, the community that it occurs in, the insurance underwriters, the legal profession. Literally thousands of people and occupations are affected by aircraft accidents.
The families that are affected and the volunteers that respond.
Yes.
Yep.
Similarly, though, on an aggrandized scale, the accidents of a failed political system is monumental news. It literally can have a consummate effect over the entire civilized world. I characterize for my doctoral dissertation in the chain link of the Soviet collapse that the Soviet Union, when it collapsed, that wasn't supposed to happen. It was the result of an accident. It was indeed a political accident. That's why I use the chain link theory to analyze what occurred there in the Soviet Union by using that construct. But how do we utilize this chain link theory in aircraft accident investigation, and what are its implications to look at in political science at political accidents? I want people to understand this. So, when conducting an aircraft accident analysis, investigators are typically asked to uncover the number one cause, the root or most probable cause which led to that final outcome. As such, since this variable, the most probable cause, which represents the last straw, if you will, prior to that ultimate event, seems to be sort of a perplexing enigma, effectively consuming everyone's thought pattern. But over the years of aviation accident investigation, the investigators have devised this chain link theory to help them determine this most probable cause. The method utilizes a recreation process of the sequence of events just prior to the catastrophe. Through this mechanism, the investigators formulate a chain link of interrelated events, sort of a domino effect, if you will, which logically order the incident and allow easier access to information and facts. The concept behind the theory is that the variable which can be categorized as the most probable cause of the accident was the definitive catalyst that produced the ultimate event. As such, if this variable had been removed just prior to the sequence of events, in other words, prior to the accident would not have happened. However, after prolonged use of the chain link method, investigators made an intriguing discovery. They soon realized that by removing any one significant link of the chain of events, the progression would have been modified such that the accident probably would not have occurred, at least the very sequence, the temporal sequence of the accidents would have been altered significantly. This realization convincingly showed the importance of all the variables as well as the most probable cause in the sequence of events. So the main premise behind the chain link theory is that all the links in the chain contribute to the final outcome, the accident. One link may often distinguish itself as the main culprit, but all the links must have been present for the accident to have occurred when it occurred. How about that? If one of the links had been removed in the chain of events, the accident would not have been allowed to occur. So at this point, what I want to do is take a look, with the amount of time we have left, at something that's very identifiable, and let's take a look at how this chain link works. Most of us who are Lou Esposito and Stacy Lennox's age, laugh, laugh, laugh.
Ha ha ha.
Remember the catastrophe of Air Florida Flight 90, which collided with the 14th Street Bridge and then plummeted to the bottom of the Potomac River shortly after takeoff from Washington Reagan National Airport. Most of us actually witnessed the heroic actions by those rescue workers during the aftermath of this crash on our local TV newscasts. So for most of us, it is undoubtedly etched into our memories. Let's look at the chain link analysis of that accident. There's several of them. Link 1. The aircraft's de-icing switch was in the off position for takeoff. This fact was confirmed by the black box tape recordings of the cockpit crew. When asked about this icing switch, the captain's response was off. And when they found that piece of gear, it was in the off position. It was snowing hugely that day, and they had their anti-icing switch off. That's the first link in this chain of events for that accident. Link 2, there was this discrepancy with the de-icing of the wings. The right wing was not de-iced. The de-icing procedure for the aircraft wings occurred during a shift change. When they changed the shift, the guy that left had already de-iced the left wing, but did not de-ice the right wing. The guy that came on to replace him mistakenly assumed that the right wing had been de-iced, when in fact it had not been de-iced. Link number 3, Air Florida did not do any ice training for its pilots. Why should they? They lived in the Sunshine State. Now that's ridiculous for all the pilots out there listening. Once you get up to about 14,000 feet or so, or maybe a little less than that, you no longer are in the Sunshine State. The aircraft can start accumulating ice. Okay, so there's 3 links right there. The guy that was flying this airplane also, while he was waiting in line to take off, was using, or so he thought, the hot exhaust from the airplanes in front of him. That turns snow into ice, which is a far worse condition in aerodynamics. That was what he did right there as well. As a result, this aircraft had massive amount of snow on its wings. Other pilots could be heard saying, "Look at the stuff on that airplane," but they didn't tell this pilot. Nobody made the comment to him. The guy that was the pilot of this captain used a reverse to back out of the gate, which is prohibited. And what that did was it flung snow and ice up into his engine and froze over the exhaust pressure ratio gauge, such that when they actually put the power levers up to take off, this gauge was not reading properly. Because of that, they set 100% power. The pilot in the right seat was flying. They set 100% power based on that EPR gauge, but it was a faulty gauge. In actuality, it only had 70% power on. Weak captain. I talked about that. He was basically a weak captain. We also in the right seat had a non-assertive co-pilot. He was rolling down the runway and said to the captain, "Sir, there's something wrong. There's something wrong." Captain said, "No, look at the EPR, 3.24, keep going." If that was me, Lou, I'd have said, "You know what? you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm going to abort this takeoff. So they only had 70% power on takeoff because of that gauge, and that co-pilot was not strong enough or assertive enough to stop the airplane and save those lives. Now, when I look at that accident, they asked me to pick out who was or what was the most probable cause. All of them had an effect on that accident, the ultimate outcome. I picked the co-pilot. You know why, Lou? One, because he was a naval aviator, and two, because he knew what was going wrong and didn't have the guts or the courage to stop that airplane from taking off. If he had, he would have saved every one of those lives. Remove any one of these links in the accident chain and you successfully avert that accident. You pick out which one you think is the most probable cause and remove it, you change the accident. But that's how this works as far as the chain link theory. You line up these dominoes, you line up these elements that led to that actual accident, whether it's an accident on the highway, an accident in your home, or this aircraft accident investigate, to find out analytically, using this construct, what led to this. So we won't have this happen before. Again, I used this in my doctoral dissertation when analyzing the collapse of the Soviet Union, analyzing it as a political accident. And that's what I want to do when we get back together next time we have office hours and analyze what's happening right now in the chain link theory of the American collapse. Lou, what do you think?
I think that you're right that we could be in a period of that chain link collapse because of all the things that are coming together, from the debt to, the protected class to the move toward real socialism in this country. I mean, from over the past 60 or 70 years, we've really been moving in the direction of socialism rather than capitalism.
Right, and we're gonna that's very astute, and we're gonna analyze that in a few weeks. We come back from CPAC, pick up back with this one, chain link theory, American collapse. We're gonna talk about the culprit behind that, and that's cultural Marxism and what they're doing to the United States and our students, our churches, and how that's affecting us and moving us incrementally towards a communist revolution. That's what's going on. You're correct, and we are at the precipice. We're on a trajectory that will take this country over the edge. We can stop it still. There's time. But as we've said before, good men and women have to stand up courageously and fight this and prevent it from happening. I always say, let freedom ring. God help us. We can't forget our Christian roots and God. And I do want people to stand up and fight, because we can stop it, but the time grows short. I implore all of you in your dealings with people to speak the truth and then endure those inevitable consequences for doing that. The truth can be rude. The truth can upset people's little apple carts and their base of power, and so they must attack you. They must threaten you. They must call you insane or a lunatic. By the way, my book just came out yesterday, Politics in America, Lecture Notes of a Lunatic Professor, was published yesterday, and I'll give you all copies of it. It's coming out. Why do I call myself a lunatic professor? Because that's what they call me. The lefties know that I speak the truth and I upset their power base. They've got to denigrate me in the eyes of 47% to make them think I'm a lunatic or insane. And
Rules for radicals, number 5.
Rules for radicals, number 5. We just talked about that offline. And you get hit with that all the time, with that ridicule. Ridicule is immoral. It's irrational. You can't really defend against it, except keep your chin up and continue to speak the truth, Lou. And I know you do that, as does Stacy, even though you guys get attacked virulently by these Twitter trolls, and sometimes they come at me when I defend you.
Right, and if we're not getting attacked by trolls on Twitter, then we're doing something wrong.
Exactly. I like that. How much time we got? We got anything to say left?
Nope, we're done.
Take a break?
You need to say goodbye.
Okay, very good. I'm glad you all were able to listen to Office Hours with Dr. Ray, and hopefully we can learn and then save this country before we do go over the edge.
Absolutely. You guys have a great week. Catch us WNJC 1360 AM Philly, Thursday afternoons 5 p.m. here on K98 on Sundays, and you can get us on For Whom the Bell Tolls on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. You guys have a great week. Thanks for being here.
So long, everybody.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.